The United States failed a critical leadership test in the defense of Israel this week. How should Christians respond? Here's the point. While the nation and mainstream media have locked their attention on GOP candidate and former President Donald Trump's promotion of the Lee Greenwood God Bless America Bible, a lesser-known story took place earlier this week at the United Nations when the Security Council took up a critical vote for a resolution that called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, but not on the condition that Hamas release all hostages currently being held. While most of these resolutions at the UN often go ignored in the media, who actually pays attention to the UN today anyway, the controversy surrounding this resolution was that the United States and the Biden administration abstained from vetoing a resolution that called for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in Gaza with absolutely no requirement for the release of hostages currently being held by Hamas. Why does that matter? This could signal a historic break in U.S. support for Israel. It has been more than 170 days since the darkest day in Israel's history, when on October the 7th, 2023, more than 1,000 Hamas terrorists invaded southern Israel through 30 entry points and killed more than 1,200 Israeli civilians, including many women, children, and infants. In addition, more than 240 hostages were taken by Hamas. U.S. citizens were included among them. While over 105 hostages have been released, more than 100 hostages still remain in Gaza. The U.S. first pushed for a UN security resolution that called for a ceasefire on the condition that all hostages be released. That resolution was struck down, with China and Russia voting against it. The new resolution was passed on Monday that called for an unconditional ceasefire with a 14-0 vote, and the United States abstained from voting in defense of Israel for the first time. Immediately following the resolution, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu canceled a very important trip to the United States to discuss Israel's planned ground offensive in Rafah. Now, for anyone paying attention, the question comes to us now: why has the United States and the Biden administration in particular shifted its policy on the no ceasefire without the release of hostages? Look at more recent polling data among the base of the Democratic Party and the American public at large, and you may find answers quickly. Public support for Israel is waning. In the days following the horrific attack on October the 7th, a clear majority of Americans supported Israel's actions in Gaza, especially after seeing the horrific carnage of innocent lives on television and social media. But if you look at the same poll for Israel today, 1/3 of Americans still support Israel's actions in Gaza, with more than 50% disapproving. What happened? How did this flip? The American mainstream media has gone into an all-out propaganda war over its coverage of Israel and Palestine, with unquestionable bias. This is coupled with the political and ideological shift on college campuses and on Capitol Hill. Today, more than 75% of the Democratic Party disapproves of Israel's handling of the war and this current crisis, while a majority of Republicans still approve. Historically, the United States has always been an unquestioned ally and supporter of the modern state of Israel since 1948, and on both sides of the political aisle. Greater than 70% of the Jewish voters today identify as Democrats. That's including the most recent 2020 presidential election, where the majority of Jewish voters overwhelmingly supported Joe Biden for election. Just yesterday, former Connecticut Senator Joseph Lieberman passed away at age 82. You will recall he was the first Jewish vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party in the 2000 election. He was a longtime moderate in the Senate. Lieberman would occasionally side with Republicans as an independent vote. But if you look at the makeup of the Democratic Party today, you will hardly find any moderates left. While Democrats claim the majority of Jewish voters, the new party makeup is very deeply divided along ideological lines when it comes to support for Israel and when it comes to confronting anti-Semitism. The bipartisan resolution condemning anti-Semitism in Congress back in December overwhelmingly passed with Republican support, but only 84 Democrats voted in favor of the resolution. All of this further highlights the current cultural, political, and spiritual divide in the United States, with waning support for Israel abroad and increasingly inspired enemies around the world who are looking to test American leadership and resolve. Hamas terror chief Ismail Haniyeh recently said that Israel is increasingly experiencing unprecedented political isolation. Let us all pray that statement proves to be a lie. And here's the point. As Christians, we cannot be silent about rising anti-Semitism all around us. We must tell the truth about what happened on October the 7th, one of the darkest days in Israel's history. As a nation, Israel does have the right to defend itself. Israel also has the unmitigated right to demand the return of every man, woman, and child, or to continue their fight until every hostage is safely returned home. So let us not stop praying, nor grow weary in well-doing for the sake of the gospel of Jesus Christ and for the sake of Israel until that happens.